Donald Trump v. Kamala Harris. Who's ahead in the polls? On November 5th, Americans will go to the polls to elect their next president. Until June 27th, it seemed that the matchup would be between the same two candidates as in 2020, Joe Biden, the Democratic incumbent, and Donald Trump, his Republican predecessor in office. But that night, Mr. Biden delivered a disastrous debate performance. It immediately made Democrats question Mr. Biden's fitness for the task. On July 21st, he bowed to pressure and withdrew from the race. He endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris, as the Democratic candidate. The chart above shows the latest national polling averages. Harris has the support of enough delegates to the Democratic National Convention to win the nomination. She will have little time to define herself to voters and counter Mr. Trump's campaign. Mr. Biden's presidency has been associated with by high inflation, big industrial policy bills, and turmoil abroad, things which Republicans will seek to pin on Harris too. But she has one clear advantage over Mr. Biden: her age. At 59, she is over 2 decades younger than he is, and 18 years younger than Mr. Trump. Our latest coverage of the race asterisk is Tim Walz, the right vice presidential running mate for Kamala Harris? Asterisk, will America's economy swing the election? Asterisk, Kamala Harris leads Donald Trump in our nationwide poll tracker. Asterisk, swing state economies are doing just fine. Mr. Trump, meanwhile, has a dismal record. Supporters tried to overturn his election loss in 2020. He faces federal charges over his alleged participation in that scheme and has been convicted of felonies for hush money payments connected to his 2016 presidential campaign. On July 13th, at a rally in Pennsylvania, a 20-year-old man shot at Mr. Trump, grazing the former president's ear and killing a bystander. After this assassination attempt, politicians of all stripes urged allies and rivals to lower the political temperature. Mr. Trump, who showed rare restraint in the aftermath of the shooting, has since returned to his divisive rhetoric in speeches. The Economist is tracking the race, as well as an average of the polls. You can also see historic polling data for Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, more recent polling since Harris entered the contest, and key dates in the race and candidate biographies. Stay informed with our weekday newsletter, The US in Brief, and if you are interested in contests elsewhere, see our election tracker hub. Key dates. August 19th, Democratic National Convention. As at the Republican Convention a month earlier, the Democrats will formally nominate their presidential candidate in Chicago. September 10th, second presidential debate. The two main candidates are set to go head-to-head a week after Labor Day on ABC News. Traditionally, when Americans begin to pay attention to the election, Mr. Biden's catastrophic performance in the first debate sowed the seeds for the end of his candidacy. Harris will surely provide livelier opposition to Mr. Trump, who has suggested that a further 2 debates be held on other networks, on Fox News and NBC. November 5th, Election Day. Polls open on a Tuesday in early November, though early voting and mailed-in ballot initiatives will mean many Americans will have already voted. Counting ballots will go on for weeks in some states. Jan 6, 2025, Results Certification. Once all votes are counted, the results must be certified by Congress, normally a pro forma event. In 2021, Mr. Trump's supporters stormed the Capitol building to stop the certification. He is on trial for his alleged role in the attack. Jan 20th, 2025, Inauguration. The new president will be sworn into office on the steps of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Kamala Harris, Vice President. At 59, Harris is more than 2 decades younger than Joe Biden, whom she replaced as the Democratic nominee. Her mother was an endocrinologist born in India. Her father is an economist born in Jamaica. In California, she won elections as a prosecutor by leaning to the right on criminal justice issues, while also appealing to Democrats, and was elected as the state's Attorney General in 2010. Since she came to Washington, first as a senator in 2017, Ms. Harris has been most effective at debates and hearings, where her skills as a litigator are on display. She is a creature of institutional politics, not a visionary or an ideologue, and has struggled to define herself on a national stage. Her presidential run in 2020 crashed badly. As vice president, she is tied to the Biden administration's record, which is unpopular despite the major legislation it passed to onshore chip manufacturing and invest in green energy. If she is to beat Mr. Trump, she will need to answer his attack lines on immigration directly and lay out a more ambitious domestic policy agenda than Mr. Biden was able to communicate. Donald Trump, former president. Ms. Trump's extraordinary campaign follows his no less remarkable term as America's 45th president, which concluded shortly after his supporters staged a violent attack on the Capitol. His alleged role in instigating the attack and a broader effort to overturn results of the 2020 election resulted in 2 criminal indictments in federal court and Georgia state court. A judge he appointed dismissed a further felony indictment against him, but prosecutors are appealing. The 78-year-old denies all wrongdoing. Mr. Trump is a billionaire who made and lost much of his money in real estate before he became a reality TV star. This time, his campaign pairs familiar culture war issues, building a border wall, left-wing gender insanity, with fresh grievances against the lawyers prosecuting his cases and the judges overseeing them. On July 13th, a gunman shot Mr. Trump at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania, grazing the former president's ear, but otherwise leaving him unharmed. A bystander was killed. Afterwards, Mr. Trump briefly seemed a changed candidate, trying to present himself as a unifier in a speech at the Republican convention in Milwaukee. But he went back to his past ways quickly, throwing insults at his political opponents. Methodology. To build our poll tracker, we adapted the work of political scientists Simon Jackman and Luke Mansillo of the University of Sydney and Jack Bailey of the University of Manchester. Their approach treats each poll as an imperfect estimate of some true support for each candidate. A statistical model is used to estimate the true voting intention, given recent polls. The model takes into account differences in methodology between polls and the partisan tilt of individual polling firms' output. For the purposes of estimating characteristics such as pollster-level biases, our tracker incorporates surveys that included Donald Trump and Joe Biden up until July 21st, when Mr. Biden withdrew from the election. However, it bases its estimate of the race between Mr. Trump and Kamala Harris solely on polls conducted after that date. The discontinuity visible on July 21st reflects the change in the Democratic nominee. In cases where a pollster releases multiple results on the same day, we prefer polls which exclude third parties. Third-party support tends to decline as the election approaches, partly because they may not appear on the ballot in many states. We also prefer surveys of likely voters, rather than registered voters or all adults. This is to capture election day dynamics and the importance of turnout in American elections.